Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Today I want to talk about the power of a pause. Taking an extra moment, so easy, so transient, how much difference could it make? Well, taking just an extra second can often make quite a difference in a lot of situations. One example is before responding. Even if you don't need time to think, allowing a 1-second pause before you respond shows respect for the speaker. It conveys that you weren't impatiently waiting for the person to finish so you could spout your pearls. Rather, you were listening, reflecting. And a side benefit of that is that if you pause for a moment, you're not going to interrupt, which only rarely is wise. If you need more than a second or two, no problem. Your listener will probably appreciate your asking, "Hey, may I have another moment to think about that?" Of course, the 1-second pause is of value in nearly all conversations, but because the text version of this is going to be in Psychology Today, it's worth mentioning that it can be particularly valuable, that pause, that is, if you're a helping professional or their client. Another context in which that 1 or 2-second pause is useful is when you're insulted. It's especially tempting to jump in and fire back when you've been attacked. That's actually a particularly good time for a 2-second pause. Take a breath, look the person in the eye, and reflect. Do you want to remain silent? That could make the other person feel self-conscious about insulting you, or explain further, or maybe even apologize. And no matter what, by pausing for 2 seconds, you've bought yourself a couple of seconds to get past any reflexive tendency to be defensive and fire back, which usually doesn't help matters. Then, with the silence having made the other person feel a little uncomfortable, if you do decide to respond, he or she may become more open to your now more measured response. Another example where a pause could be useful is when you're interviewing someone. Whether you're a police interrogator, a podcast interviewer, or a said helping professional, after you've asked a question and there's silence, maybe after the person has given a response, but then silent, resist the need to jump in to fill the silence. The other person probably is a little uncomfortable with the silence and may well fill it with something important, maybe even something that they mightn't otherwise have disclosed. Another example of where a pause is helpful is when you're flirting. Looking at that person for a second longer than that standard flash of eye contact may well be perceived as the flirtation it is. And, as in the previous examples, remaining silent and looking the person in the eye after he or she has finished saying something is not only flirtatious, but conveys that you're calm and confident, something that most people find attractive. A pause is very useful at times in a negotiation. You're probably never going to have you'll probably never get a higher hourly rate from a moment of silence than that moment after someone has made you an offer. The uncomfortability created by the silence occasionally makes the person feel self-conscious about the offer's inadequacy. If so, without your saying a word, instead of defensiveness if you objected, you could get a better offer. I've had clients get thousands of dollars extra for those few seconds of silence, a hell of a payoff. And even if your silence doesn't yield a better offer, in a negotiation, if the negotiation has gotten tense, taking that pause, that moment for each of you to breathe, can provide a reset. A perhaps less obvious example of where a pause can help is between bites of food. You can get more pleasure per calorie by taking an extra moment between bites. That said, I have to admit that for me, this is, as they now say, it's not a problem, it's an area for growth. Another perhaps not obvious example of where it's valuable to take pauses is in writing. To avoid nonfiction being too dense with ideas, it's usually wise to periodically provide a pause, an example, a statistic, an anecdote, before making another point. That's especially true, I would say, if the content is difficult or necessarily dry. In well-paced fiction, between advancements of the plot, it's wise to insert a pause, a bit of setting, of characterization, backstory, or something to muse. Novelist Louise Penny is a master of all this, for example, seamlessly inserting an eminent person's quote as a pause. You might see, for example, her book, A Grand Reckoning, which I really enjoyed, and I commend it to you. The takeaway? It's easy to assume that taking a pause is easy. After all, you don't need to do much more than breathe and maybe think. But, especially if by nature you're more impulsive than reflective, taking a pause is far from easy. You may well need to make the effort to make it a habit. How? You might try writing the word pause on your palm so you see it all the time, and also reminding yourself of the benefit of a pause just as you enter one of the aforementioned situations. It is worth the effort. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.